Hello again, it's your friendly neighborhood host, JT Wheatley, back for another episode of the History Comics Podcast, this time with another edition of Classics, with, of course, one of the great all-time classics of comic books, Mouse, A Survivor's Tale by Art Spiegelman. This is a collected series of comic strips that Spiegelman started back in 1973 and continued all the way to 1989, in which he basically tells the story of his father, Władysław Spiegelman, who was a Polish survivor of the Holocaust during World War II, and how he made through it, and of course the aftermath and so forth. What makes it so brilliant, despite telling a very straightforward story, that Spiegelman uses the brilliant technique of having all the Jewish people depicted as mice, or mouse, having all the Nazis depicted as cats, and also do other anthropomorphic characters like Russians are depicted as pigs, and so forth. But despite that anthropomorphic feature that makes it very much comic booky, this is a straightforward, very dark and powerful story about surviving the Holocaust and how it affects people, even those who did survive, and of course those who didn't, and so forth. And Spiegelman is actually very open and honest about his father Władysław, about both his strength and his triumphs. Like he became a successful businessman after the Holocaust and did things no one else thought he could do, but also he apparently had some extramarital affairs. And it's just a straightforward, great story, and ultimately uplifting, because it shows how people are able to survive such a horrible event in human history. And of course, Mouse has made news in the recent year or so, with some schools choosing to ban it from their public libraries, which. And that's the problem when you have government-run libraries. They can choose what's in them and what's not. But thankfully, Mouse is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere place you want to get. And I highly recommend, if you want your kids to read it, if you feel they're up to it, because this is a dark and disturbing story, but it's a very good one. It's like Schindler's List. That's another movie I would highly recommend reading to learn about the Holocaust, and read this as well. But it should be up to the parents to decide when their kids are ready for it. But if you are thinking they're ready for it, definitely check out Mouse, A Survivor's Tale, because that is a bona fide true classic, and then one of my top 5 comic books of all time.
Look, we gotta talk.
Yeah, Thunder Talk.
We're going all kinds of sideways with that sweet nerd junk.
Woke nerd junk.
It's topical.
Political.
Dare I say radical.
We've got all your latest news and reviews.
Hot music.
And a whole lot of comedy.
But it ain't for kids.
Definitely mature content.
So let's talk.
Let's talk Thunder Talk.
Thunder Talk is a proud member of the ESO Network.
Now it is July 14th, 2022, time for the favorite comic of the week, Rogues, number 3, by Joshua Williamson and Leo Max, which finds the Rogues finally pulling their plan into motion to steal all the gold out of Gorilla City, though for naturally things go both wrong and right as they find out where the gold actually comes from, and more than a few Rogues don't make it to the end of this issue. Williamson does a great job in really showing how the black label format can really work, because like I said, not every rogue makes it out of here, and he always throws a little differently from the comic book version, in which they kind of have a moral code, even though they are still villains, where these are straight up criminals. You're basically it's almost like watching Heat in comic book form, where these are bad guys robbing people, and they do bad things to get the gold they're after. And some big twists and turns happen along the way, and it's matched great by Leo Max's gritty but kind of loose, cartoony art. There's a great depiction of Gorilla City, and also the brutal aftermath of the heist. But yeah, all in all, just a great read, and another great example of how this black label large magazine format has been really great, and letting comic book creators really play around with the DC universe. So yeah, that's my favorite comic book of the week, Rogues number 3. And with that, I'll conclude another episode of the History Comics Podcast. Join me again next week for probably another edition of the classics. And until then, go ahead and enjoy some good comic book. And of course, check out Mouse, A Survivor's Tale if you haven't checked it out yet, because that is a true classic.